Ah. Hello, hello. My name is Brandon Wheeler, and welcome to another movie review. I got a straw in my mouth because I was in the army, had a heat stroke thing, can't talk right unless I bite down stuff, and it's not like this, other than that. It's weird and everything, but moving on from that, I went and saw this Lord of the Rings: War of the Rohirrim, and again, I made a video talking about the. If you're going to talk about, I'm already going to tell you, there's going to be spoilers in this. Uh, Talking about the trailer and everything, where they could go with it, and it's just like, okay. My brother really wanted to see it, and I was like, okay, let's go see it. So we saw it. There's a Thursday afternoon. This afternoon, I had to watch it, matinee thing. Only two in the theater, and now we're done watching it, and it is a very mixed bag. Very, and it's like, on one hand, I see like, okay, there's some potential here. There's some good things, and then at other moments, it's like, what are we doing? Just why? All right, before I get into the story, I'll get into my peeve in the beginning, the animation. In the beginning of the movie, the animation where it's going is getting to like they're gosh, it's like you see Hera riding her horse and everything. And it doesn't feel like the horse is even on the same background in some ways. And then the like the father, the bad guy in the hall, the way he's talking, everything just looked like. I was actually thinking, it was like, this is the frame rate we're going with. What? This is what we're doing. That this is what we're doing. And then even when the people are leaving and they're going up the hill on Edoras, they don't even feel like they're on the same thing. It's like, okay, is it like a CGI background and they're putting a hand drawn or what looks like hand drawn, like going up that? Is that what we're doing? Or it did not feel like it was going well. It was like, what is this animation issue? Literally, that was my thinking. I was like, what is going on with the animation? I don't really complain about animation at times, but this was like glaringly obvious to me. I was like, what is going on? Ironically, the whole thing with the Oliphant in the beginning, because you see the things with stuff, there's like a diseased Oliphant, which was acknowledged in the movie, that it was diseased. I'm like, okay. That whole thing was actually probably the best animated portion of the movie. And yet I felt, and I mean this with the most sincerest things I can say, you could cut that whole section and nothing would be lost. Like we could have, it just felt like, okay, this was like just filler here. It's just there for to be there because more stuff. I was like, okay, we need an excuse to try to kidnap her and make her separate from her group for no reason in order to make her separate from her group so they can kidnap her. What's the most kind of epic way we could do that by adding tension? Let's add a diseased Oliphant. Cool in theory, but uh, honestly, no. Like that whole section with the elephant and the thing in the water, watcher in the water, cool, but that whole section could have been cut. Like we could have kidnapped her in a different way, and nothing. It's hard to say that nothing feel be lost. Now the rest of the movie, animation wise, because I kept trying to look at for that because it was obvious to me in the beginning. I was like, oh boy. But to be fair, from that point going forward, it seemed pretty even. There was a couple spots here and there still with the same thing about characters not necessarily blending in with the like on the scenery that they're on or whatever. But overall, going besides the beginning, the main issue was the beginning. Oh my gosh! But going forward, it was fine. So I was just like, okay, animation wise, it got better going on. So I was like, that's good. That's great. Music wise, okay, music was fine. That was good. Um, as far as the portions, because it's based off the appendices in, because I read Lord of the Rings this year. As far as the appendices go, it focuses completely on Helm Hammerhand. It talks about, Wolf and everything coming to claim the daughter, who is unnamed, and they, of course, decline, and, the fight happens. But then, but it still focuses on Helm Hammerhand. It doesn't really focus on her because she doesn't even have a name. Helm Hammerhand, those portions were like, that's awesome. Seriously, those portions were like, Helm Hammerhand's awesome in every way. Now, the question becomes of our main heroine, Hera herself, or Hela. What? Is it? See, I've already forgotten. I, I hate to say that. I've already forgotten Hera. I've already forgotten her name almost after 20 minutes after seeing the movie, which is not necessarily a fair thing, and I'll get into that. Quick note: they have Miranda Otto like voicing as Eowyn, being kind of like the narrator throughout the film. I was like, okay, that's a nice surprise. They have, I mentioned this. My brother's like, yeah, they had. I mentioned to my brother it was Christopher Lee, and he's like, oh, they had Christopher Lee. He's been dead for a couple of years. I'm like, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, reading how much Christopher Lee was a super fan if they asked him, could we have access to your archival recordings and all the stuff you've done reading Lord of the Rings and use that in any future things? If he said yes, being that much of a super fan, like honestly, him being just part of another Lord of the Rings property, he'd probably be like, yay. Saruman, although lore wise, I'm not sure him taking over Isengard in this portion is not necessarily correct. Now, Hera, and I'll get into Helm Hammerhand too. Honestly, to be fair, because I've seen a lot of people saying, "Oh, this is gonna be girl boss all over this movie," and they have a fair criticism. But to be fair, she's less of a girl boss than what I was kind of giving them to, which is interesting. Is like, oh, okay, they're not. She's not completely like I'm better and good at everything. She can say, "Yes, I'm the fastest rider you have. I'm this and that," which is fair. I mean, she's daughter nobility and everything like that. It felt like they were taking the book character of Eowyn, and actually try to bring her more to an accuracy on screen. And it felt like in some portions, like, I feel like they're trying to make her more of a book accurate Eowyn than how the movie kind of became. Not that the necessarily movie was bad, but more regal and everything. It's like, okay, it felt like it captured that maybe slightly more. But I was like, okay, interesting. But it just felt her being a fighter and everything. It's like that's not necessarily again unheard of, like Rohan and stuff. But then it kept talking and bringing up the shield maidens of like Rohan, the ones who stood on the border and fought when all the men died and everything. So they fought when all the men left or whatever. And it's just like, okay, that's cool. That's good to have. But if you talk so much about that, why not just show that movie then? Is that in the impendency? I think it is somewhere, maybe. But if that's the case, it sounds like you want to make a movie about that. Why not just make a movie about that? Why draw Helm Hammerhand into this? Now, to be fair, I think what they were going with slightly with the thing with Hera is that normally when you do a storytelling device, when you have someone's story being told to kind of get the audience perspective to kind of see where everything's going, you add a character that's a focal point for the audience to follow. That way, when they're going through the story, that's where the audience is going through the story. That's kind of how Hera is. She's more reserved back and everything. And again, to be fair, less of a girl boss thing than what woke stuff people say to give credit. Her mentor, though, Alwyn, whatever how you say Alwyn, like Arwen, but Alwyn, that's the girl boss. That I get it. You want to show her as a shield maiden and everything, but it's just like, really, 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 like this is where the spoilers get. Of course, Hera gets captured. Fair. They just put a bag over her head and it's like, okay, that's all it took to kidnap her. Okay, but she comes barging in like a buckler shield and fights Wolf briefly so she can escape. And I was like, and then they're gonna have the arrows and everything shooting. I was like, is she gonna die? They're gonna shoot her? No, still it. Okay. Then at the end, I thought, okay, is she gonna fight along with Hera against Wolf on the balcony and everything? It's like, no. Well, she's fighting. She's still alive. At the end of the movie, she's still alive. I'm like, what's wrong with killing her off? Like, honestly, what is wrong with killing her off? I don't mean that as a bad thing. I mean, like, I could have gave. Yes, she's lost her. Hera's lost her father, her brothers, but another mentor figure could have been killed off. But it didn't make much. Huh? That was the more girl boss thing to do. Hera was actually not in the context of how Lord of the Rings was written, the books. How I'm thinking how Eowyn was. If we're saying that this is who Eowyn drew her strength from in some weird way, hypothetically, it kind of fits. That's like, okay, it kind of fits. It's less bad than what I thought. However, Hera's plan, real quick, I know I've seen some people saying, like, oh, him saying, I can already imagine, Helm telling her that, oh, you would probably be, Queen of Rohan and everything and lead and everything. I'm going to cut that off right now because Theoden in the book was very well, and even in the movie, was very well prepared to have Eowyn rule as queen. He was very well prepared to already have her do that and already prepared for that. That was what was supposed to happen, but of course Eowyn went to the field. But Eowyn was supposed to be Queen of Rohan. That's what he was setting it up for. So it's just like, okay, that's acceptable. I'm going to get into that at the end because it's just like, really? That's what we're doing? But really, that's the only real moment with Hera, just like, really? That's what we're doing? Her plan is to go, they try to get word out to her cousin who would become the new king of Rohan. Flaylin, I forgot. Or I don't know how to pronounce his name. Starts with an F or something. Is to get an eagle to go and bring him and everything like that. And she has to climb the mountain to do that. To reach the eagle. I was like, they're having her climb the mountain. She's climbing the mountain. Not that I've watched Ring of Power, but I've seen pieces of trailers of the Ring of Power that have Galadriel doing. Are we doing? Are we seriously having her climb the mountain? Really? We're having her climb the mountain. I hate to say it, I wasn't buying that. I'm like, no, just no. That is the one thing. It's just like she could. She couldn't have... No. I'm sorry, no. It's just, no. I don't buy that she was going to be able to climb the mountain and everything. I just, no. Even all the other guy characters, the only one who could possibly do that in that situation would have been Helm. That's literally all I could think. And Helm, again, beasts. Hothead. But beast. When he talks about, how he became like a specter and everything and the appendices and how the enemy warriors were scared of Helm Hammerhand because they thought he was like a specter and everything. And they kind of really went into that in the movie and how he fought like a orc troll and everything. It's just like, yes. Helm Hammerhand, yes. And ironically, not the way how he sounds, but how he kind of looks, actually is kind of... I've written my own kind of fantasy stories. I'm working on the third book. I have 2 books so far. I have a king in here called King Macbeth. Shaul Macbeth. Or Shaul Macbeth. That's kind of how he looks. in some ways, he's big and strong and everything. It's like, that's kind of how... So kind of see how my character is, kind of, in an animated form, just being like a beast and everything, being muscular. And I was like, that's cool. I like that. Now, you'd probably notice, oh, you got a redhead on the front. Oh, here's a little spoiler. This is her character, Meadow. She fights with a shield and a sword. Much like this person in the movie likes to prefer. Yeah, I like that. That is something I like, and I based that specific character off a combination of characters like Sophidia from like Soul Calibur, Pura Nikos from Ruby. I like that combination. I do. Sword, shield, woman fighting is awesome, especially with Eowyn, Lord of the Rings. I like Eowyn. I like that combination. That's cool to me. So having that is not an issue. And honestly, the dress she wore at the end was prettier in the movie than it was in the trailers. It was like, look, in the trailers, it wasn't anything, but in the movie, it's like, that actually looks prettier. Like, to me, it did. I was like, that actually looks prettier. Speaking of outfits, I know when initially trailers came out that people were like, oh, the outfits aren't looking good or whatever. I'm going to take a guess that the outfits, this is more like a high time of Rohan's reign with Helm Hammerhand, in a way. That's why, the insult of Saruman saying, You are a lesser son of greater size, is pungent because, yeah, Rohan's time during Théoden was lacking. But the time during Helm Hammerhand was more when Rohan, I guess, in a way, at its peak in some ways. So it's just like, okay, so maybe the outfits were much more better. Um, but her brothers were fine. I like the use of the singing in the beginning and the singing of the morning for the king. Again, Helm Hammerhand is awesome. No, we did not get that stinking popcorn bucket. My brother kept asking, like, do y'all have that? And I'm like, Sean, we're not getting that popcorn bucket. I don't care if it's $5. We don't need a battle hammer. Even though after seeing him trying to wreck the elephant's legs with that, I'm like, okay, I kind of want a battle hammer. It's just like, ow, that freaking hurts. But again, Helm Hammerhand. But portions of the Helm Hammerhand, awesome. Hera's not bad. I don't necessarily buy the ending. Wolf misses just killing her. And I was like, okay. And then again, Olwen throws her shield and she uses that to finish off Wolf. And I was like, um, almost don't. I don't buy that. She could have just did regular sword. She didn't have to use the shield. Again, Olwen. If you want to honest stuff with Olwen, I felt was very lacking. I don't like Olwen. I'm gonna just say it. I don't like that character. It's just like, okay, I get it. You want to talk about the Shield Maidens, how the spirit of the Shield Maidens live, but if it's such a revered thing in Rohan, why does all of them talk bad about it then? If it was such, because I know in the beginning it's like, oh, I feel we should move on from these type of things, and maybe that was the view, but it's just like, it doesn't seem like it's that. Shouldn't more women be more Shield Maidens then? Huh? Again, certain things in the movie just, yeah, I don't buy this character. And then the biggest thing at the very end, of course, the guy becomes king, and Hera's going off on an adventure. They already introduced Saruman, he becomes the new ruler of Isengard. But they're going to go on an unexpected invitation to go talk to Gandalf about what she saw with these two orcs collecting rings. And it's like, oh, they're going to go talk to Gandalf. Okay, that's interesting. But why are we having her go off an adventure? I mean, couldn't that's what she was kind of doing in the beginning? But why couldn't she stay part of the court and be part of things for her people? I mean, she was briefly queen. Why? I mean, she could go talk to Gandalf and still be part of the royal court. Why couldn't we do that? I mean, why couldn't we do that? I'll give it to her that maybe a little bit cliche, but I'll give it to her because again, I think they were kind of pulling from Aowen book wise. Like she's wearing the bridal dress, and Wolf is like, "You're wearing a bridal dress. Who you were actually showing you're married to?" And she's like, "Death." I was like, okay, that fits more of that character. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And quick note, my character Meadow Hollyhock is, uh, despite her, I would say looking very similar to how she would kind of look and stuff. Meadow has a lot more freckles on one side, especially. Um, she's freckly and she has more heavily freckled on one side, but freckles all over. And it didn't look like Hera had any freckles. But for some reason, that's just a detail that I want to make sure I highlight. But again, the movie is a mixed bag. It is when it's focused on Helm Hammerhand, awesome. Hera is okay, but definitely some moments are like, no. Especially with Olwen, this is like, to, I don't know who the new king marries. Does it mention who the new king marries in Independence? Because I'm thinking about looking it up. Because honestly, it seemed like Hera could have married him. If anyone she was interested in, it looked like she was interested in him. I'm just saying, it's like, looks like she's interested in him. Wolf, maybe, but it looks like she was interested in him. Could she have returned and married him and they have kids? That's what the line? It was like with her cousin. Yeah, but how distant is a cousin? So, but I don't know. It's just a thought, to be fair. But I don't know if that the way they ended it, it doesn't seem like that's what they were going with. So it's just like, so why not just call this movie Shield Maiden then, since you talk about the Shield Maidens or something? Why not? Because it feels like you want to, again, you want to talk about something else, but using the story to kind of be like a leapfrog to go to that. And it's just like, I don't know if you're going to succeed in that. But have you seen the movie? What do you think about it? Some things you like, some things you don't. Again, Helm Hammerhand, definite. Everything else is like, eh, I don't know. It's just, eh. Alrighty, though. But anyway, I give it a fair shot. It's okay. But again, this is kind of like, yeah, I'm going to go about my day and kind of forget about it. Unfortunately, it's just the way that movie is. Own it maybe to kind of rewatch. I mean, there is a lot of fantasy elements. Like, you know what? If it was this like own story in some ways, like it can be fine for its own story, but to kind of connect it to yeah, it has no connection to Lord of the Rings. It's just connecting it to Middle Earth and everything's just like it's got potential there. Like different moments, like okay, it feels like it's got potential here, but other moments it's like no. And I think you're trying to overdo the Shield Maiden than what was necessary, but and it's sad too because I like the Shield Maiden profile stuff, but eh. All right. Well, anyway, if you've seen the movie, tell me what you think about it. That was my review. See you in the next one. Goodbye.